Another interesting night under the shield. And by interesting, I mean actually infuriating. Because while there was a lot of football in that football game last night, unfortunately, there was just as much of the refs, the ref show. We talked about the ref show yesterday. I tweeted last night, the ref show is the worst show. There was a ton of that, right? So what you had was a night of football, and there was some good football. There was. But what you had was an all-time great night for anybody who tuned in just to watch the refs. The non-existent audience had the time of their non-existent lives if that's what they tuned in for. For the rest of us, it was mostly just excruciating. And I'm not about that. I'm not about rolling in here just to hammer on the refs. I don't want to do that. It's the last thing I want to do. However, they don't leave me much choice, do they? Because after a bull crap roughing the passer call on Bacon 45 on Sunday, which dominated the headlines, there was another bull crap roughing the passer call, which dominated the headlines once again. I've never seen Big Red so furious. Saying something, much to the chagrin of James Kelly, saying something is ass is not a take, but that's ass. That's historic ass. And why do I say that?
Serial ass?
Because there may have been some NFL history in that. Because that was the first time, in my estimation, that a player has ever roughed the passer while holding on to the football. Chris Jones stripped Derek Carr before he even knocked him over. Then the replays definitely made it look like he did not actually land with the full body weight on Carr. Even though that was referee Carl Jeffers' excuse after the game. In other words, it wasn't just a clean play, it was an unbelievably clean play. Which is probably why everybody immediately lost their collective bleep. As I mentioned, that was the most red-assed I have ever seen one Andrew Reid. All of Arrowhead lost its bleep. Judging by Twitter, and you never want to judge things by Twitter, but judging by Twitter, most of America lost its bleep. So per usual, is that just bad officiating or are those just bad rules? Bad officiating or a bad rule? And as always, the answer is yes. I do love the response. Quote, I'm trying my best here. What do you want me to do? I'm trying my best. I'm 325 pounds.
I'm trying my best. I'm 300.
What do you want me to do? I'm 325. I'm bracing for the fall. I'm trying my best. All right, but then that part about, well, why don't we just make it reviewable? It seems pretty logical, right? But it's kind of flawed. There's a reason why PI, pass interference, is no longer reviewable. It's because the refs F that up too. Of course it makes sense to review these plays, and of course it wouldn't make any difference at all. Thankfully, at least, that call did not end up ruining the game. Well, I guess depending on what game you're watching, it may have. The other horrendous call last night didn't help matters either. Because the ref show's encore was to call a devastating defensive holding call against the Raiders on a fourth quarter Kansas City field goal attempt. That's a flag you basically never, ever, ever see. Let me repeat that. Defensive holding on a field goal attempt. When was the last time you ever saw that? When have you ever seen that? Has that ever happened? And of course, that flag led to a fourth Travis Kelce TD. And a 7-point lead that wound up being enough for Mahomes and the Chiefs. You heard me correctly. Travis Kelce scored 4 TDs last night. And thanks to the ref show, it basically took me a half of a segment to get there. Talk about burying the lead. Except that wasn't the lead. The ref show was the lead, unfortunately. And I want to make this very clear. It's so convenient and it's such low-hanging fruit. And believe me, I didn't think to myself, you know what I'll do? I'm just going to come in here and just crack on the refs all day. I don't want to do that. I really don't. But again, they left me no choice. So it took me half of this open to get to a guy who scored 4 touchdowns. I haven't even gotten to Devontae Adams yet. Well, now I have. Unfortunately, now I have to talk about Davante Adams. I say unfortunately because I don't mean that amazing fourth quarter TD catch he made to make it a 1-point game, or the critical overturned 3rd-and-1 sideline bobble that pretty much decided the game, almost came down with it. I'm talking about Adams lowering the boom after the game on some dude holding a boom or a camera stand. It was hard to tell. I just know that dude got trucked. Some innocent stadium worker shoved to the ground by Davante as he was walking off the field. And then social media went from raging about the ref show to raging about the ref show and the shove. Now, to Adams' credit, I guess, he immediately apologized. Although I've got to say the apology tweet was kind of funny in and of itself. Quote, he said, quote, "Sorry to the guy I pushed over after the game. Obviously very frustrated at the way the game ended. And when he ran in front of me as I exited, that was my reaction. And I felt horrible immediately. That's not me. My apologies, man. Hope you see this."
My bad, my friend. I'm sorry.
Oh, he saw it all right. He just didn't give a damn. Hope you see this. That's not exactly going to bail Davante out of a fine and maybe even a suspension and maybe, yes, legal action from the dude that he smoked. So I don't think him, quote, seeing this is going to help. Aside from all the antics, there was a lot of game to that game last night. Like I said off the top, unfortunately, a lot of it was way too familiar for Raider fan. I mean, how good were things looking when you're up 17-0? It was almost like you could hear the autumn wind building under the broadcast. Like you could already hear Raider Mike's call today, spiking the ball on Chiefs fans' face. You could almost see my man Josh McDaniels. And I do love Josh. You could almost see him channeling his inner Chunk Gruden and doing a victory lap in the bus around Arrowhead.